Hello, everyone. Welcome to Feedstuffs 365. I'm Sarah Muirhead. Joining us today to talk about bridging the gap in ag technology and research is Kyle Durham. Kyle is a farmer in Missouri and a director on the United Soybean Board. Kyle was on a panel last week, I believe it was, or recently at the Ag Media Summit in Kansas City, talking about this very topic. So, welcome, Kyle. Thank you for joining us here today.
Well, good to be with you, Sarah.
For those of you that are tuning in, we want to thank you for being with us. If you have any questions for our guest, feel free to post those there in the chat area on the right-hand side of your screen. If you're joining us from social media, simply post your questions directly in those channels. So, Kyle, let's start by having you tell us a little bit about your farming operation. I know you're in Missouri, but what else should we know?
Yeah, absolutely. We farm about 2,500 acres of corn and soybeans in the Missouri River bottoms, about an hour's drive east of Kansas City. So my dad and I run that operation, and I've been back home farming full time now for more than 20 years. So it seems like only yesterday, but at the same time, it seems like it's been a while as well.
Right, exactly. You got some good looking beans down there this year?
We do. The season got off to a really early start around here. Both corn and soybeans got in early. Had plenty of moisture early on. In fact, it was a bit of a concern at one point, then turned off dry. And here in the last couple of days, we've caught a couple inches of rain. So things are looking pretty good in kind of northwest Missouri.
A little dust settler there you had, huh? A little
Yeah,
rain to settle
absolutely.
things down. So you're active on the U.S. Soybean Board. What would you say are some of, and probably on some of the state soybean boards as well, what would you say are some of the research investments that pretty much excite you the most? What do you think that soybean growers, how do they really benefit from these investments?
Yeah, happy to talk about that. As you mentioned, I've been a member of the board of the Soybean Merchandising Council here in Missouri for 9 years. And then last December was appointed to the United Soybean Board, which is the national checkoff board. And research really is one of the three legs of the stool when it comes to what the checkoff does. It's research, it's promotion, and it's education. And so, when we look at the research investments that go on through the soy checkoff, the important thing to remember, as a director on the board myself, representing the farmers around me, is that we want to come up with and support good research that is going to be applicable in farmers' fields. That's where the true value lies in finding ways to help farmers along in adopting best management practices.
So why is it so important for farmers to stay up to date on research that's related to, say, improving yields, enhancing soil health, kind of navigating that insect weed disease challenge? What producers need to pay attention, I would guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And the list you just rattled off, the challenges to growing a soybean from taking it from that seed, which was harvested the previous year and planting it in the ground and coming out with a good crop on the other end. So many yield robbers along the way, whether it be weather or pests or weeds or insects, whatever it might be. And so those challenges too are ever evolving. The same challenges we see today when it comes to, say, resistant weeds. That was not a challenge that we had 10, 15 years ago to the extent that we do now, So that's why keeping on top of research and the newest, ideas and management practices is really going to benefit farmers in the long term. And so that's where we put a priority at the soy checkoff is we want to keep growers up to date. We want to provide them with the best information and with timely information.
I was one of those folks way back when that used to have to walk all the soybean fields on our farm and with a hoe and just take out that corn or whatever was wasn't supposed to be there. So I love all these new advancements and technologies. But so talk to us about how growers can improve the quality of their crop through research and technology adoption.
Yeah, absolutely. Whether a farmer realizes it or not, he or she is amassing and creating a mountain of data, every day on their farm, every data point, every bullet point, every product that they add to the crop, every timing of an application, that's a data point. And so, the challenge sometimes can be is what do we do with all those data points? How do we make actionable insights out of just these what might seem like random points? And so, for an example, we would always soil test. Soil test is pretty common across the entire United States. You've got to know what's in the soil before you know what a crop's going to need and what soil amendments that you might want to add. Well, 10, 15 years ago, in an 80-acre field, you might take, say, a half dozen samples across that field and kind of extrapolate that out and figure out what your nutrient requirements are going to be. Today, we're saying a half-acre grid. So now instead of 6 data points, you've got 160 data points in an 80-acre field. And so what that allows us to do is to reduce our input costs and the amount of product that we have to put on the field, because certain areas don't need as much as others. And even if we don't see a reduction in the total pounds, what we do get instead is those pounds are placed in more suited areas, that the right products going on the right place at the right time.
So when it comes to implementing this new technology, implementing research best practices, what are some of the challenges that growers would face, and how best to overcome those?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of times what we can see, the easiest hurdle maybe to knock down is cost. Anytime a farmer wants to implement a new technology or a new management practice, I mean, there's a certain amount of cost and a risk to it. You don't know out of the gate whether it's going to work or not. Maybe you've had a neighbor that tried it. Maybe you'd read some articles or something where farmers have been doing a different, cover crops, for example, and seeing the results that they had. But before you step out on that limb, a farmer's got to have a certain amount of confidence that it's gonna pay dividends, that it's going to return on that investment. So oftentimes, like I said, cost can be prohibitive in making a change. Sometimes it's just simply a matter of not knowing about a new practice or something like that. And so that's where the checkoff really comes in and comes alongside a farmer. And so we're fronting the money and we're doing the research and trying it out across multiple environments, so that a farmer can have confidence in that data that says, here's what you can expect on the back end, or what pro or con depending on your situation. And then certainly through research networks like the Soybean Research Information Network, we get that information out as quickly and as timely as we can.
Well, and I know you do a lot of work too on kind of looking at the end uses, right? So the feed uses, and what the producers, what the hog producers, the poultry producers, what those folks need in the products that you're producing.
Absolutely. Livestock still remains the number one consumer of soy, especially soy meal. And so that's been a great partnership that we've developed and maintained over the years. Obviously, a lot of farmers across the Midwest raise hogs and cattle and chickens and all kinds of other livestock as well. So they know the value that soy has in their operation. And like you said, we continue to invest in things like new use development. But really, the core is continuing to focus on our livestock friends and finding ways to help them remain profitable, because they will be our largest consumer, for the foreseeable future.
Any final thoughts to leave our audience with today, or where they can go for more information on what's up at the U.S. Soybean Board?
Well, you can always check us out at unitedsoybean.org. That's a great place to start. I mentioned the Soybean Research Information Network is another great place for folks to catch up on the latest data and research coming out of their checkoff programs, both at the national level and at the state level. And then there's also a section in there called Science for Success. And that's through a partnership with our university researchers across the country. I believe it's about 26 university extension departments. and just continuing to get the word out to make the information available and helping farmers however we can.
Very good. Kyle Durham of Missouri and of the United Soybean Board. Thank you so much for your time today, Kyle.
Thank you, Sarah.
And we want to thank all of you for joining us as well. We appreciate for you tuning in. A reminder, you can review this interview as well as a number of others at Feedstuffs 365. Just go to feedstuffs.com and click on the Feedstuffs 365 icon in the nav bar. For Feedstuffs, I'm Sarah Muirhead.